What you did yesterday? Okay, online students, please. Yes, good. I think I was not audible to all of you. So now let's discuss about the next leg of the chapter, geographical thought. We have discussed the Roman and the Greek philosopher already. So now we have to discuss geography during the Dark Age. That is what we have to cover, right? So let's talk about it. Geography during Dark Age. I told you some of the things regarding the geography during Dark Age. What was there? So in this particular point, in this particular phase, what happened? The scientific revolution stopped working. So there was no scientific revolution. There was no one who was asking about anything. Whatever the church has said, we were believing all that things. Whatever church said was true, and we were following that also. Something which is not getting confirmed, we have to follow that, and something which is not getting conformed to the dogmas of the church, that was not carried forward, that was considered as something that should not be implemented and should not be carried forward, that should not be discussed even. So one thing which was they were very assured about was that anything which church promotes or anything which church says that it's fine and the idea looks fine to them, then only that idea was promoted, and else the other things that were there, the rational, logical, all sort of things that were there, that were neglected. So the point here is, this was a middle age. You call this as a middle age. ये कौन सा एज था आपका? This was a middle age. पहले हमने क्या किया था? Ancient age. Ancient age में what all we talked about first Homer, Hicatius, we talked about Anaximander, we talk about Thales, then we have talked about Strabo. He was a Roman philosopher, a Roman geographer. He promoted regional geography. We have talked pretty much about all of them. Then Ptolemy, then we have talked about Plato, Aristotle, Greek philosophers, Greek geographers. So pretty much we have talked about all of them, and now we have to come and talk about Middle Age. Arab, we are not doing. Arab is not being asked so much. Although one very specific thing about Arab geographers were, they did not discover, they did not find it out anything else. उन्होंने खुद का कुछ नहीं काम किया. The work they have done no work on that. It was just their they have just recreated the accounts. They have just recreated the historical accounts of the Greek philosophers only. And Arab geographers का एक speciality और था, that Arab geographers used to travel a lot. ये बहुत travel करते थे. For example, if I talk about the Al-Biruni only, he traveled to all the places like India, etc. And he now then created some of the accounts that were present, but the most of their inspiration were taken by the Greek philosophers. That was the speciality of the medieval period. That was the speciality of the Arab geographers. And then Arab geographers said one more very interesting thing, that only torrid zones are habitable and then other zones are not habitable. That was a very interesting fact that they have put. सिर्फ आपके टॉरेट जोन हैबिटेबल है, बाकी के जोन क्या नहीं है? हैबिटेबल बिल्कुल भी नहीं है. तो ज्योग्राफी ड्यूरिंग डार्क एज का जब आप कीवर्ड्स लिखेंगे, व्हेन यू विल राइट द कीवर्ड्स ऑफ ऑल ऑफ दैट, यू विल अंडरस्टैंड ये बहुत ही डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव था. ठीक है, बिकॉज रोमन सिविलाइजेशन कोलैप्स कर गया था. जब वो रोमन सिविलाइजेशन जब कोलैप्स कर गया, तो द होल अथॉरिटी केम इन विद द चर्च, एंड चर्च कैथोलिक्स जो बोल रहे थे वही सच है. एवरीथिंग हैज टू we have to abide by them, we have to adhere to their principles, we have to adhere whatever was not in line with the dogmas of the church, that was not accepted. So write down middle age, frequently referred to as dark age. Write down. First we'll define what was a dark age. Dark age कहते किसे है? Write down. Middle ages, frequently referred to as dark ages. Middle ages, frequently referred to as dark ages. Middle ages, frequently referred to as dark ages, is the period in European history is a period in European history from the collapse of Roman civilization, from the collapse of, it's a period in history, it is a period in history from the collapse of Roman civilization till the period of, till the period of Renaissance, till the period of Renaissance. Middle Ages, frequently referred to as Dark Ages, is a period in European history from collapse of Roman civilization in 476 BCE, 476 BCE to the period of Renaissance, which is your 13th century, 14th century, and 15th century. From the collapse of Roman civilization in 476 CE to the period of Renaissance, that is the beginning of 13th, 14th, 15th century, full stop. The phrase Middle Ages tell us, the phrase Middle Ages, the phrase Middle Ages tell us that tell us more about Renaissance. The Middle Ages tell us more about Renaissance that followed it than it does about era itself, than it does about era itself. They came up with the notion of 1,000-year period of darkness. They came up with the notion of 1,000-year of period of darkness. क्यों बोला गया इसको period of darkness? Because there was no questioning that was being done. There was no invention that was being done in this period. This period was known as a period of waste. Why? Because when somebody is not inventing anything, somebody is not asking the conventional methods of doing some activity, then that period is the full wastage. So the point is, this is also known as 1,000 years of darkness and ignorance that separated them from ancient world, ancient Greek and Roman world, separated them from ancient Greek and Roman world. ठीक है, इस टाइम पीरियड में इनको पता चला कि क्या इंपॉर्टेंस थी एंशियंट ग्रीस की, how ancient philosophers and thinkers have contributed so much. This period mein, because there was no invention took place at that point of time, they realized the value of the Greek philosophy. So much of contribution they understood, that they have understood the point that there was such a big contribution by the Greek philosophers at that point of time, and in this big period they have done nothing. So उनका value क्या हो गया? बढ़ गया. Greek philosophers का value क्या हो गया? It increased like anything. And next, write down. Starting from 14th century, European thinkers, writers, and artists, starting from 14th century, European thinkers, writers, and artists begin to look back and celebrate the art and culture of, they started celebrating the art and culture of ancient Greece. They started celebrating art and culture of ancient Greece. Next, accordingly, they dismissed the period. Accordingly, they dismissed the period after dismiss मतलब वो पीरियड कंसीडर ही नहीं करते थे, उनको इतना प्रॉब्लम था, they did not used to consider that period as a period itself. Accordingly, they dismissed the period after the fall of Rome as middle or even dark age, in which no scientific revolution, in which no scientific revolution has been made in any field. The people of middle age had squandered. Squandered means what? What do you understand the meaning? What is the literal meaning of squandered? Search. What is the literal meaning of squandered? The people of the Middle Ages have squandered in the advancement of their predecessors. मतलब जो उनकी प्रेडेसर ने इतना कंट्रीब्यूशन किया था, इतना काम, इतना वर्क करके दिया था, इतना ज्यादा कंट्रीब्यूट करके दिया था, that they could not develop anything further upon that too. So it means the contribution that they have done in a very early age also, they could not do much more, they could not add upon it. So there was no addition by them, there was no value addition which was done by them. Right? Fully? Huh? Oh, you can sit. Okay. हाँ क्या बताइए? Correct, wasting, right? They squandered, and you can even write wasting. The people of the Middle Ages have squandered the advancement of their predecessors. They have squandered the advancement of their predecessors and mired themselves instead in what 18th century English historian Edward Gibbon called as barbarianism and religion. क्योंकि इस टाइम पे हमने सिर्फ किसकी बात करी? We only talk about the importance of religion. That's it. We talked about only this. Only this was promoted. Nothing more than that. Next point. This period was long viewed as time of. This period was long viewed as. Next point. This period was long viewed as. This period was long viewed as a time of widespread decline in nearly all respects. Viewed as a time of widespread decline in nearly all respects, comma, population decreased, comma, political social instability was constant, political and social instability was constant. Political and social instability was constant. Comma, cities shrank. Cities shrank. Trade and wealth were limited. Comma, daily life become very basic. Next, this interpretation of the era remained dominant. Write down. In general, medieval times, especially in Europe, were a dark period for the development of science. It was a dark period for the development of science and geographical ideas. Full stop. Scholars made sterile copy. Scholars made sterile copies. Scholars made sterile copies of the works of ancient Greek thinkers and they rejected anything which does not conform to the dogmas of the church. Did not conform to the dogmas of the church. Clear? Write down. Dark Age, लिखिए. Usually referred to as early medieval Europe. और किस टाइम पे आएगा ये? आपको इसको कंसीडर करना है 4th सेंचुरी से 10th सेंचुरी. और इस 10th सेंचुरी को हम क्या बोलेंगे? We will call it as early medieval period. क्योंकि बहुत लंबा चला था ये period. Remember? Because we consider it from the period of fall of Roman Empire to the period of Renaissance, 16th-15th century. So write down, it refers to the early medieval Europe, roughly 5th to 10th century, after the fall of Western Roman Empire, comma, after the fall of Western Roman Empire, full stop. Geography during this period was absent. इस period में क्या था? In this period, the contribution in geography was absent. In this period, the contribution in the geography was absent, but it was less scientific and less systematic. And also, it was less scientific and less systematic than in the Roman and later Islamic worlds. Next key point, geography became more religious than scientific. Underline करेंगे इसको. And this is make it as a question also and comment. इसी लाइन को आप क्वेश्चन बना दीजिए और लिखिए कमेंट. Geography became more religious than scientific and then comment. Full stop comment. You're not having a class tomorrow. Do you know that? Got that? Okay. Next, many maps were based on Christian worldview. जैसा Christian बोलेंगे उसी तरह से things were seen as like that. Not as how it is, but maps were also made on the basis of Christian worldview. जो क्रिश्चियन वर्ल्ड व्यू, जो क्रिश्चियन देखते हैं या क्रिश्चियन ऑर्थोडॉक्स चर्च ग्रुप देखता है, उसी की बेसिस पे दे यूज्ड टू फॉर्म क्रिश्चियन वर्ल्ड व्यू, नॉट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ मेजरमेंट, मेजरमेंट की बेसिस पे नहीं, उनके उनके हिसाब से दे यूज्ड टू मेक इट। द कॉमन स्टाइल वाज TO map, T-O map. Their common style was T-O map. सेकेंड इनका क्या पॉइंट था? लॉस ऑफ क्लासिकल नॉलेज। सेकेंड कीवर्ड लिखेंगे इसी पीरियड के अंदर, देयर वाज लॉस ऑफ क्लासिकल नॉलेज। क्लासिकल नॉलेज क्या हो गई थी? बिल्कुल खत्म। देयर वाज नो क्लासिकल नॉलेज, it was all vanished. Much Greek and Roman geographic knowledge, like detailed map from Ptolemy, like detailed map from Ptolemy, Ptolemy was lost. Next point, there was a limited exploration in Europe. There was, third point, limited exploration. And these points are going to be extremely beneficial when you're going to write the answers. Pointer wise answers are always good because the recall value of such answers is quite for a long period of time. So trade and travel still existed. अब limited exploration क्यों कम हो गया? Because trade and travel was happening only within the countries. Trade and travel only within the countries. They were not going beyond the oceans, beyond the sea. So people weren't able to explore much of the areas. Trade and travel still existed, but mostly regional. Trade and travel existed, but it was mostly regional. Trade and travel existed, but it was mostly regional. Next point. This knowledge of distant places was vague and mythical. Knowledge of distant places was vague and mythical. ठीक है, अब देखिए, what is the important preservation outside? Alright, ये हुआ हमारा अर्ली मेडिवल पीरियड। अर्ली मेडिवल पीरियड की कुछ और भी पॉइंट्स आई जस्ट क्विकली read it for you. During early medieval period, European scholars were largely restricted to working in Latin texts. They were only advised to work in Latin texts. They were not advised to read any other language. And only few learned Arabic later on. Greek sources remained mostly inaccessible. As a result, geography in the Christian world mainly involved translating and preserving earlier ideas from the classical antiquity. In the 5th century, scholars such as Martianus Capella and Ambrosius Theodosius in the 5th Theodosius translated work that helped Europeans become aware of Plato's ideas. So there were some scholars who still translated. What was the name of the scholar? Ambrosius Theodosius. Write down the name. Ambrosius. Writing the spellings. Ambryo likhe, फिर CS likhe. Ambro. It is Ambrosius. 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 Ambrosius Theodosius. 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 Theodosius translated works that help Europeans. Translated works that help Europeans became aware of Plato's idea, including the concept of, कहाँ से उनको पता चला कि that earth is spherical? It was through the Plato's idea, including the idea that earth is a spherical body, including the idea that earth is a spherical body. ठीक है, next write down late medieval period. Late medieval period. Write down about late medieval period. Now, late medieval period started from 11th century and it lasted till 15th century. Late medieval period started from 11th century and it lasted till 15th century. Write down. By the late medieval period, some scholars began to challenge. By the late medieval period, some scholars began to challenge. किसको challenge करने लगे? पहले वाले scholars को challenge करने लगे, पहले वाले norms को setup को challenge करने लगे. Established authority, they started challenging established authority through reasons and observation. अब क्या आ गया यहाँ पे? They included rationality from now on. Through reasons. Questions. They started questioning them through reasons and questions and observations. Very important. William of Conches. William of Conches. Conches. William of Conches. William of Conches proposed that universe operated according to the natural laws. Universe कैसे operate होता है? According to the natural laws. Natural laws के basis पे universe operate होता है. Universe operates on natural laws. He said universe operates on natural laws. Universe operates on natural laws. And offered explanation for atmospheric phenomena and offered explanation for atmospheric phenomena such as cloud formation. Cloud formation का भी क्या दिया उन्होंने? They have given a clear explanation कि क्यों बनते हैं clouds. ऐसे नहीं कि चर्च ने बोल दिया cloud formation is because of the God and God को गुस्सा आ रहा है तो rain हो रही है. All of these are the myths that has been created by the church because they did not want people to think beyond God. हर चीज में they said God, this is because of the God, this is happening, this is because of the God, volcanoes are happening, this is because of the God, earthquake is happening, this is because of the God, you are being born. So all of this is what constraining your mind and confining your mind to a very narrowing your mind, basically confining it to a very narrow mindset. So basically what you need to go beyond that. आपको तो expand करना है, आपको तो सोचना है ना. You have to evolve yourself. That evolution did not happen, innovation never happened in that period of time. So even the cloud formation, the rain was happening, it was because the God is angry today. If the sun is there shining bright, the God is very happy today. So this was a kind of an indication that you used to infer from the different from the different phenomena which happened in the nature. So that was a problematic thing. Write down Robert Gross Teste. Another scholar name लिखिए Robert Gross Teste. Robert Gross Gross Testes. Question the idea of uninhabitable torrid zone. He questioned the idea of uninhabitable torrid zone. पहले क्या बोलते थे? I told you yesterday. There was one scholar in the ancient history, in ancient times, where he has given this idea that either the torrid zone is too hot to be habitable and the frigid zone is too cold to be habitable. The only region where you can live is temperate. So then he asked this question. He questioned the idea of uninhabitable torrid zone. Using Arabic reports of using Arabic reports of habitable region of Egypt. Habitable region of Egypt. What was his name? Robert Gross Seste. His spelling is not there. S is not there. Gross S. S. Extra S is not there. Inhabited region in Eastern Africa. Inhabited region in Eastern Africa. Extended as far as 20 degrees south. ये भी तो torrid zone है ना? Are you getting the point? तो रॉबर्ट आस्क कि अगर हैबिटेबल नहीं है टॉरिड जोन, रॉबर्ट ने पूछा that अगर आपका ये आपका हैबिटेबल नहीं है 20 डिग्री साउथ, if it is not, then how come he is living there? How the people are living there? You said that it is not habitable. So then he asked, the reports by the Arab geographer says that there are people and there is a civilization, there is a peace, there are community which is residing in Egypt, and Egypt lies where? In 20 degrees south. It is also torrid zone. How come people living there? So this is what the question were raised by him. Okay. Then write down Pope Pius II. Pope Pius, P-O-P-E, Pope Pius, P-I-U-S, Pope Pius II also argued that habitable regions extended. He also argued that habitable extended beyond. He also argued that habitable regions extended beyond equator, and India is not landlocked. And India is not landlocked. Now, write down the conclusion in it. You have a dark age ka page abhi? Huh? Just read through that later on, not now. Write down the conclusions. It is concluded that Middle Ages in the history of Europe. It is concluded that Middle Ages in the history of Europe is a period of ignorance and backwardness. Is a period of ignorance and backwardness resulting from instability of socioeconomic and political structure. Resulting from instability of socioeconomic and political structure. Any kind of scholarly pursuits were rare, and education limited to religious teaching. And education was limited to religious teachings. However, the contact with Arab people reintroduced Aristotle and Ptolemy, as well as various Arab scholars to Europeans. Right? Just read out that. I'm giving you 3-4 minutes to read it. Ask any question, and then I'll give you the question for your assignment. and then we'll start with the modern geographers quickly. Okay, do it. बोलिए कौन सा? हम्म हम्म इसका मीनिंग फिर से बोलिए। हम्म हम्म तुम्हें use the example of vertically thrown objects return to the same spot to argue against Earth's rotation. Earth's rotation. He used to say that Earth rotate नहीं कर रहा है against the Earth. प्रूव वैसे किया ना, अगर अर्थ रोटेशन हो रहा है तो सेम स्पॉट पे कैसे आएगा? अगर अर्थ रोटेट कर रहा है तो कोई भी चीज सेम स्पॉट पे, अकॉर्डिंग टू हिम, अगर कोई ऊपर आपने चीज फेंकी और अर्थ रोटेट कर रहा है, ये आगे चलेगी तो इट कैन नॉट कम टू द सेम स्पॉट पे तभी आएगा जब अर्थ रुकी हुई है। दैट इज व्हाट ही मीन टू से, बिकॉज पहले तो ये भी कंफर्म नहीं था ना कि अर्थ रोटेट कर रहा है नहीं कर रहा है। दैट वाज आल्सो वन ऑफ द मिथ कि क्या हो क्या रहा है, अर्थ रोटेट कर रहा है नहीं कर रहा है, क्या हो रहा है, वी डिडंट नो दैट। ठीक है। यस, जस्ट होल्ड। यस, बताइए। क्लियर, आगे बढ़ी। ठीक है, ओके, पक्का, एवरीथिंग यू हैव सीन, टाइमिंग, टाइमलाइंस एक्सेट्रा। Online students, do you have any doubt? Have you gone through this notes? Okay. Now we are going to do another thing. American, हम साथ में करेंगे French and German geographers, and then we will do French and German geographers together. And then we'll be going to do American and British separately, right? अब देखिए फ्रेंच एंड जर्मन्स क्या थे। सो जर्मन्स वर क्वाइट इंटरेस्टेड इन ज्योग्राफी। ये वो क्वाइट, पहले समझ लीजिए फिर आप लिखना। तो जर्मन्स वर क्वाइट इंटरेस्टेड इन ज्योग्राफी, उनको बहुत अच्छा लगता था ज्योग्राफी पे काम करना। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, देयर वाज अ जर्मन विद द नेम ऑफ रैडसेल। ही हैज वर्कड अ लॉट इन द, he has even contributed a lot in the geography. Next, there was Ritter, Karl Ritter. Then Alexander von Humboldt. Okay. All of these were quite interested in the geography and they had their own way of contributing to it. Okay.
उसके बाद आपके फ्रेंच जोग्राफर में एक है विडाल दे ब्लाचे. He has even he was a in fact he was a founder of a human geography. Vidal de Blache. He was a founder of human geography. He was the founder of human geography. Then, in fact, first you try to understand, get used to all these names, then only I'll proceed further with what they contributed, etc. Okay. Then there was a very popular one with the name of your Alfred Hettner. Alfred Hettner, I have given certain description of this person, Alfred Hettner, also. Initially, if you recall, you can recall from the starting, from the initial classes, I have given you a lot of this from the initial classes. You can get the clue that what I have discussed about him. Remember, in the initial classes, I have discussed about Alfred Hettner. याद है आपको? थोड़ा सा याद है, ठीक है. So he was again, he contributed a lot in what? Regional geography. He was the one who given a lot of contribution in regional geography. ठीक है. Next what? Next what? There was Penck. Penck has also given the contribution. So this is how we have divided. So first to get used to all of them. See, इसको सबसे अच्छा याद करने का तरीका क्या है? That you go into their backgrounds. कभी भी आपको किसी भी geographer का contribution जाना है, don't just jump onto the contribution. Read their history, how they have come along their history, what they read, how they read, where they lived, what sort of contribution, what kind of people they met in the initial stages of their development, in sense their career development. So you have to get all of that. So for example, if I remember Ritter, I also remember Alexander von Humboldt at the same point of time. Why? Because when Ritter met Alexander Humboldt, then only his lot of things changed. In sense that Humboldt told him the importance of the environment, the role of the environment which has been played by, which role of the environment played on humans, that how humans get influenced by the environment they are living in. So when he told him the importance of it, that how then everything changed in the Ritter's life, then he started talking about it. So it is also said that Karl Ritter का जो contribution था वो Alexander Humboldt से ज़्यादा था. अब Alexander Humboldt की आप history देखेंगे तो Alexander von Humboldt used to travel a lot. Ritter का जो background है, Ritter was not from a very not a well-off background. So he got a chance to basically he got influenced by one of the very famous geographer, or you can say legendary person, and then he also get a chance to meet him. So when he met him, he got influenced by him, he got a lot of guidance from him, and that is how his life changed. So I would say he was fortunate enough in that situation also. He could read, he could study it well, and also he got to know more influential personality in the same field. And on the other hand, Alexander von Humboldt was quite well off. He got a chance to travel a lot. Humboldt ने इतना ज़्यादा travel किया था that through observation he changed. He used to write about all the his observation wherever he has gone. For example, if he has gone in South America, he would write about all of that. If he's gone in the Mexico, etc., he would write about all of that. So this is how the perspectives were changing between perspective were changing of two geographers. Why? Because one was traveling a lot and one was not traveling. So Karl Ritter ne pehle initially he has gone outside also for the studies, and later on he come back to Germany only, and then he studied etc. And he was he became a teacher over there in the university. So this is how their life was. अब contribution कैसे चल रहा है? पहले geography को समझ रहे हैं. They are getting they're meeting the people of the same field, and then they are getting influenced. So this is what the Karl Ritter and Alexander Humboldt का journey. ठीक है. अब Retzel की बात करते हैं. Retzel is a very interesting person. Retzel ने क्या किया? He took an idea from Darwin, right? And Darwin का क्या theory था? Darwin का theory था organism पे. that one of the survival of the fittest. It means that somebody who is so best in something, only he will be able to survive in the adversities as well, right? For example, if I talk about any organism, tell me one organism which is one fittest organism which can survive in any kind of a harsh condition that can thrown up to him, but he can still survive. So there are many organisms like that, but few of them are, for example, the rats are one of them that have survived in all the harsh conditions. So Darwin was like that, that in order to survive in this harsh environment, you have to, there's a competition of survival of the fittest. Only the fittest people can survive for a very long time. और कभी उनका क्या होता रहता है, evolution होता रहता है. तीन कॉन्सेप्ट को रैडजल ने किस पे अप्लाई किया, स्टेट्स के ऊपर. ही स्टडीड लॉट ऑफ ट्राइब्स. रैडजल का जो फील्ड था, उन्होंने ट्राइब्स के ऊपर स्टडी किया. ही स्टडीड द जर्मन ट्राइब्स आल्सो, ही स्टडीड द अमेरिकन ट्राइब्स आल्सो. डिफरेंट जगह के ट्राइब्स पढ़ा और ये भी देखा कि व्हाट इज द पैटर्न दैट इज बीन फॉलोड इन दीज ट्राइब्स. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर हम जर्मन ट्राइब्स की बात करें, दैट हाउ आर दे एक्सपैंडिंग देयर लोकेशन, आर दे एक्सपैंडिंग देयर एरिया ऑफ सेटलमेंट. So that is what he used to talk about. कि कुछ ट्राइब्स होती हैं वो अपना एरिया को एक्सपैंड करती हैं. एक्सपैंड मतलब अगर पहले वो छोटे से एरिया में रह रहे होते हैं, then they will expand more, then expand more, expand, and then finally they will take up the area of the other tribes also, and they will include in them in their region. So this is what. So now according to Ragsdale, that was not wrong. क्यों? Because organism का क्या पॉइंट है कि जो सबसे ज्यादा फिटेस्ट होगा वो सर्वाइव करेगा. रैडजल का ये पॉइंट था कि जो सबसे ज्यादा कम्युनिटी या ऑर्गेनिज्म, जो सबसे ज्यादा ट्राइब सबसे ज्यादा फिट होगी, सबसे ज्यादा रेजिलियंट होगी, वो सबसे ज्यादा क्या करेगी, एक्सपैंड करेगी. तो सेम आइडिया किसने लिया, लेबेनस्ट्रॉम का आइडिया. सेम आइडिया वाज पिक्ड अप बाय हिटलर फ्रॉम द रैडजल बुक. तो रैडजल, हिटलर ने क्या सोचा, that because Germans are one of the most powerful, one of the most superior races, so they have to expand because they were superior in all sense, right? So they can expand and they have to expand. That is the idea of Radzell. And further with the idea of Lebensraum का मतलब होता है to expand. Lebensraum का idea भी किसने लिया, हिटलर ने लिया from his book Radzell की book से. So this is how they were understanding the things. समझ में आ रहा है. अभी आपको किसका बैकग्राउंड, अभी कार्ल लिटर का बैकग्राउंड आपको समझ में आया, तब आपको उनकी जर्नी का पूरा कंट्रीब्यूशन समझ में आएगा कि उन्होंने पूरी जर्नी में क्या क्या कंट्रीब्यूट किया ज्योग्राफी के अंदर, क्यों ऐसा किया. यू ऑल्सो नीड टू नो व्हाई अ पर्सन हैज डन लाइक दैट. देयर इज ऑलवेज अ रीजन बिहाइंड समथिंग दैट द पर्सन इज डूइंग. So you need to get to the point that why he is doing like that. What is urging him? What is forcing him to do in a certain? Why there is a certain set of a pattern by a human? Okay, when you are given a more opportunity, what you will do? You will roam. Abhi aapke paas if I'll give you an 10 crore rupee, what you will do? Will you study and sit there? No, you will invest, you will travel, etc. So human is a product of what? Of its circumstances. So whatever the circumstances is thrown at the person will react according to that situation. तो सिमिलरली जब भी आप ज्योग्राफर पढ़ेंगे तो पहले उनका बैकग्राउंड पढ़ेंगे, तब जाके आपको समझ आएगा कि उन्होंने ऐसा क्यों करा. अदरवाइज क्या होगा, इट विल लाइक अ प्लेन थ्योरी. सबकी जर्नी एक जैसी थोड़ी ना है, सबका बैकग्राउंड एक जैसा थोड़ी ना है. जब बैकग्राउंड एक जैसा नहीं है तो उनका लाइफ का जो जर्नी है वो कैसे एक हो सकता है. सो यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट. समझ में आया? ठीक है, इससे अब आप रिलेट ज्यादा कर पाएंगे. If I'll suggest you don't write अभी French and German geography, but do you want to write? लिख लेते हैं. Then in the end for the 10 minutes I'll give you the answer writing practice. ठीक है, चलिए लिखिए French and German geographers. Write down French and German geographers. Heading डालेंगे French and German geographer. The philosophical foundation to the subject of geography. The philosophical foundation to the subject of geography was given by Immanuel Kant. One more thing I want to add. देखिए, Immanuel Kant और बाकी के जो geographers थे उसमें क्या difference था. Immanuel Kant was the armchair geographer. He was an armchair geographer. That means वो अपनी सीट पे बैठे बैठे ही बोल देते थे कि सन यहाँ से राइज कर रहा है, this is happening, that is happening. He never explored the thing. But with respect to the Alexander von Humboldt, the case was that he used to travel and then he used to state the observation. He used to state his observation. He used to state his studies, and that was the main difference between the both. Okay? So philosophical foundation to the subject of geography was given by Immanuel Kant. While Alexander von Humboldt and Karl Ritter developed the subject as an independent branch of knowledge. They both developed the subject as an independent branch of knowledge. Full stop. From the middle to the 19th century, up to the contemporary period, contemporary means up to the contemporary period, there occurred many philosophical changes. In the definition, concepts and approaches of the discipline. Next point. The major concepts and methodologies were, however, developed by Germans, followed by French. Major concepts and methodologies were, however, developed by Germans, followed by French, British, American, and Soviet scientists. First, write down the contribution of French geographers. The first one that we are going to discuss about, write down, heading डालेंगे, contribution of French geographers. And the first one is Vidal de la Blache. Write down. The birth and early career. First of all, we are going to do his early career because this helps you to recall the contribution very easily, right? Because you can integrate, you can connect the dots in that way. Right, Vidal de la Blache, known as a founder of human geography. He was a founder of human geography, and Vidal de la Blache, he was a founder of human geography, and he was a scholar of classical languages. Full stop. His interest in geography developed in 1865. His interest in geography developed in 1865 when he was studying archaeology at Athens. Later, he taught geography at University of Nancy. And then joined Ecole as a professor of geography. Write down work and contribution. In 1891, he founded a new periodical. He founded a new professional periodical for the publication of he founded a new professional periodical for the publication of best geographical writings. Full stop. And periodical was called Annales de Geography. ANNLES ANNALES de Geography. DEGEO Geography. Full stop. In 1894, Vidal published the first edition of. In 1894, Vidal published the first edition of Atlas Journally. Atlas लिखिए, write on general. Atlas Journal. Journal के आगे E लगाना because you are writing in a proper German language. Atlas Journal, Vidal Lablache. Now write down. Next point. Vidal was a critic of environmental determinism. Vidal was a critic of environmental determinism. Now, what do you understand by environmental determinism? देखिए, environmental determinism says that your environment is responsible for human activities. For example, humans are limited by its environment. That is what determinism says, that your environment is influencing a human to do certain things. The limitation of the human is because of its environment. So this is called as environmental determinism. Opposite of environmental determinism is possibilism, wherein the humans, in fact, despite of the fact that the environment is not suitable to them, they can still create a space for themselves. So, but he was a critic of environmental determinism and he was a critic of deterministic approach. Write down. He was a critic of deterministic approach. In fact, he advocated the concept of. In fact, he advocated the concept of possibilism. He advocated the concept of possibilism as postulated by February. As postulated by February. Write down. His basic approach towards study of men and environment. His basic approach towards the study of men and environment. The two major components of geographic study was the nature set limits and offers possibilities. His two major components of geographic study was nature set limits and offer possibilities for human settlements. But the man reacts or adjusts to these conditions is coming under possibilism. Right. Next, he was a good supporter of, he was a propounder of, write down, according to Vidal, it is unreasonable to draw the boundaries between natural, according to Vidal, it is unreasonable to draw boundary between, it is unreasonable to draw, according to Vidal, it is unreasonable to draw boundary between natural and cultural phenomena. Between natural and cultural phenomena. They should be regarded as united and inseparable. They should be regarded as united and inseparable. Right on. The relationship between men and nature becomes so intimate. The relationship between men and nature becomes so intimate that it is not possible to distinguish that it is not possible to distinguish between the influence of men on nature and that of a nature on men. He was what? He was a French geographer, right? So he was the first French geographer, Vidal de Blache. Okay. Then write down next, Jean Brunches. The next geographer, the French geographer we are having is Jean Brunches. Jeanbrunches. Jean Brunches. These are two different words. Jean Brunches. Okay, written. Okay. Before that, what you have to do? Start writing a question. Answer to this question. Take down. Have you done the previous classes question? Have you tried that? Hmm. Write down. First question. Critically examine Vidal de la Blaches. Critically examine Vidal de la Blaches concept of possibilism. Concept of possibilism. Write down. Next question. Evaluate the contribution of, evaluate the contribution of Vidal de la Blache to modern human geography. We're having a test this week, you remember? There's a detailed test I have made on environmental geography, pura complete. We're having an essay also in that. Okay? Try to do these questions. 2 questions करेंगे अभी. Right? Vidal de Blache. Do these 2 questions. Structuring, intro, body, conclusion. Muskan, are you writing? Good. आप पॉइंट्स में लिखिए, डोंट लाइक राइट लाइक दैट, पैराग्राफ में लिख रहे हैं ना, थोड़ा स्पेस दीजिए, राइटिंग वेरी क्लमजी, क्लमजी लगेगा ना फिर। और हेडिंग डालिए, उससे ज्यादा अच्छा रहता है, हेडिंग डालिए, पॉइंट्स लिखिए। रिटन एवरीवन, फ्रेंच ज्योग्राफी में 2 ज्योग्राफर्स और ऐड कर लीजिए, ऐड 2 मोर, राइट डाउन। आई होप इट्स डन और यू नीड टाइम। डन, कंक्लूजन, राइट। ओके, रीड, ज्यादा नहीं समझना, बस थोड़ा सा आपको, यू हैव टू जस्ट रीड अबाउट जीन, he is also a French geographer, Jean Branches, and also I'm going to talk about L.E.C. Ruckless. L.E.C. Ruckless. आपको सिर्फ rough idea लेकर आना है what these geographers are all about. You don't have to indulge so much कि क्या था क्या नहीं. I'll tell you all of that. And there's a son-in-law also of Vidal de Blache with the name of Emmanuel de Martone. Emmanuel de Martone. He is also quite popular. Emmanuel, Emmanuel. If this is not clear, I'll write again. Emmanuel de Emmanuel. Emmanuel de Martone. He is quite popular. I mean, he was a son-in-law of Vidal de Brache. and he is also has a greater contribution in physical geography. He was specialized in physical geography. There are three scholars that you can superficially read: Jean Brunches, Reckless, and Emmanuel de Martone. Okay, these three are French geographers, and then we'll continue with German geographers in the next class. Okay, anything else that you need to ask? पूछिए. Hmm. Hmm. ठीक लिखा है आपने. बट लाइक कंटेंट बहुत ज्यादा तो फिर हम वो टाइम हाँ कंटेंट तो है. इसको पॉइंट्स कम कर दीजिए. यहाँ पे एक पॉइंट, यहाँ पे 3 पॉइंट्स कम. बस वही पॉइंट्स कम कर दीजिए. जो भी आपको लग रहा है. नहीं सारे ही इंपॉर्टेंट है, तो आप दो इनमें से 2 to 2 हटा दीजिए. ठीक है, डोंट राइट ऑल द पॉइंट्स बिकॉज यू नो. हाँ राइट. ठीक है, ऑलराइट, थैंक यू सो मच and please give your test.